and then we'll probably be able to do it again. So we'll just wait a minute or so.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for everyone. Good. We're going to get going in a few minutes. Thank you, everyone, for joining. You'll be on mute. If you have any questions, you just post them on the chat box on the right, and we'll be able to address them in the program. I'm Paul Siegel. Gerard O'Driscoll is on the call, and he is the subject matter expert in the Internet of Things, and particularly as it relates to the home in this program. So we're going to start very shortly, but giving it a few minutes to get going again. And if there's questions, as I said, let me see, should be able to. Can you see my screen, Gerard?
I can see your screen fine, Paul, yeah.
You can see the webinar, right?
I can see the webinar, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, okay.
So let's give it a few more minutes. Let people get going.
Can you hear me okay, Paul, and all that, yeah?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, perfect, okay. Okay, cool.
Okay, in the interest of starting precisely on time, we're going to start at 1 o'clock now, Eastern Time. I'm in the United States. Gerard is in Ireland. He'll tell you about himself in a few minutes, but let me just take you through a little bit of about 2 minutes worth of what Starweaver does. You understand the context. We are a training company. We focus on providing info tech, project management, and finance training to lots of big institutions around the world. For the most part, we don't provide individuals training, though we do have an online platform and lots of individual courses you can take if you're interested. But our focus, as I mentioned before, just now, is the IT area, enterprise IT, project management, finance, banking, and business skills. We have hundreds of courses. Sometimes they're a few minutes long, and sometimes they're weeks long, and often they're done in this format today, these days, that is to say, online from disparate audiences based around the world. Sometimes they're done live and in person. Depends on the program, depends on the requirement, and obviously it always has to come down to a facilitator, an expert like Gerard, and someone who can interact with the delegates. We have a Internet of Things program today. We have 2 days from now, Best Practices IT Frameworks. And then we'll very shortly within the next week be announcing the first quarter's webinar series. Usually there's one per week, but obviously because of the holidays, we've clubbed them together this week. As a reward, if you will, for participating, you'll get access to one of these courses. You don't need to write them down. You'll see there are a lot of fintech courses. There is a great business writing course. These are video-based courses. They're hosted on Udemy. They're free to you. They're lifetime access. All you have to do is click on the link, and you'll get access to the course. Somehow this has been over here. You'll see that this is the link that you go to at the end of this program. I will also put it in the text box in a few minutes on the webinar at SurveyMonkey plus / and HHZS85D. If you want to write that down, that's great. So you don't have to memorize the list of the courses. All we're asking you to do is give us a little feedback on Gerard's presentation today. That helps us go forward and understand what was good, what needs to be improved, and what you're looking for in the future. And then at the end of that, you'll get a list of courses. Just let us know which one. You'll get a link, and then you'll get access to the course. So without further ado, I want to pass this over to Gerard, who will take you through the Internet of Things and talk more about the reason you came here today. So Gerard, take it away.
Hi, thank you, Paul. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today, all about the Internet of Things. So I suppose the IoT is something that has been introduced probably between 3 to 5 years ago, and it covers a wide range of subjects and topics. But today we're going to focus on the home, and we all have a home, and it is a slant, I suppose, that IoT has embraced, and of all the IoT categories, the smart home is certainly one of the more developed ones, and it is gaining a lot of traction within IoT. So today, we're going to talk about how we look at IoT within the home.
Gerard, do you have, sorry to interrupt, do you have your screen shared?
I do have my screen share, yes.
Okay, I think we're waiting for your screen to be shared.
So my apologies, okay, sorry, my apologies, okay, yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, so are we okay? Can everybody see my
Now we can see your screen. Now we can see your screen.
Great, okay, great, okay, great. So again, welcome to our webinar today. So there is a lot of interest in using IoT within the home. It's, as I say, the smart home has been evolving for 20 to 25 years, and it has been rejuvenated, shall we say, in recent times with lots of new products that are coming out that are all connectable into the public internet. So that is driving interest and driving demand for various types of connected devices. And I suppose these devices have different names and different associations, but one of the categories is IoT. So today I want to speak a little bit about some of the benefits of smart homes and how they relate to IoT. I then want to talk a little bit about some use cases of IoT in people's homes, including your own homes. I then want to look at some of the details of how you would go about adding IoT functionality into a person's home. So this is happening in millions of homes really at this stage across the world. It has a stuttery start, shall we say, but there is certainly moves to bring this into the mainstream, and it is quite advanced. And you'll see later on in my presentation the types of players that have endorsed IoT within people's homes. So first of all, who is GERARD? I am based here in Ireland, and I am 47 years of age actually. I just turned my birthday there recently on the 6th of December. The smart home hit me. I wrote a book back in 1999 about digital set-top boxes actually, and I was at a conference in London, and there was a guy actually up in stage, and he was presenting on the concept of home networking. So it kind of sparked my interest and the relationship, I suppose, between the set-top box and home networking, which it was called at the time. So I went on and I wrote a book in 2002, 2003 on home networking actually. And I started a company on e-learning, and we produced a lot of courses on home networking back then. And the content, I was actually looking at it there recently, was it's quite dated obviously, but it's quite interesting. So I've spoken at many conferences, etc. But in recent times, I suppose I've compiled a lot of updated books, shall we say, on the different platforms and different areas that the smart home is evolving into, and I've produced various courses, etc. I also own an online store that sells some connected devices, and most importantly, married with 5 young kids ranging from 17 all the way down to 5. So we're a busy place every day. So that's me anyway. So look, the spending on smart home services, there's been reports even back to that date, 2001-2 type of thing, about how many billion is being spent on smart home technology. And every 6 months, literally for the past 15 to 20 years, I've been looking at these reports, and you know, every report says X amount of billion, etc. But it is a big market. It's starting to become a pretty serious market, to be honest, and there's a lot of money being spent on different types of connected devices that are going into the home. And I'll talk about some of the problems that are kind of plaguing the industry and have been plaguing it since those times, but a lot of those problems are starting to get addressed in a serious way at the moment. So just let me give you some myths, I suppose, which we've kind of all been brought up. But first of all, there is this myth, and people believe that smart home technologies is expensive. So that is changing dramatically. Traditionally, if someone wanted a smart home, they would spend several $1,000s or euro or pounds on getting a new system, and you would have to get a traditional installer to put that system in. Now, I know the States is quite ahead when it comes to smart home systems and technologies, and has been over the rest of the world, but that is changing. It's hard to install. Again, people don't understand how easy these IoT devices, in general, the mainstream don't understand how easy these devices are to install. And again, I would consider that a little bit of a myth, and you need to be tech savvy. A lot of these products are becoming much easier to use, and they are becoming much simpler to install and get running. So I suppose, why bother with IoT-based smart homes? And I want to run through those in some reasons. First of all, I believe that these devices are quite easy to use. I've seen them go from pretty cumbersome, choppy devices back maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years ago based on technologies, Z-Wave and Zigbee, etc. That have poor user interfaces and are just unsuitable really for the broad mainstream market. That has changed in the last 3 or 4 years, and I suppose one of the pioneers, to be quite honest, and I've talked about it today, is Nest. The Nest thermostat kind of took the world by storm. That and Sonos actually took the IoT and the smart home industry by storm back then, and its implications are continuing to this day. So, and again, that is quite a simple device to use. So it facilitates, I suppose, the control of your lights, heating, security, and entertainment system. So it allows the installation of these devices allow for control, number one, but secondly, it provides for automation. That's kind of the next step that the smart home is moving towards. Is automation, and is the ultimate, I suppose, when your home is more intelligent, or is intelligent. And Tony Fadell calls that the thoughtful home, actually, which is one of the marketing brands that he talked about. So another benefit of doing this and bothering with this that consumers are looking at is improved comfort and convenience. So if you can introduce comfort into your life and convenience, which is quite useful for particular people, for instance, people that are aging, for instance, it's smart home is becoming quite big in that particular profile of people, 50 years of age and above. It does improve their convenience. If they've got motion sensors that they need to are installed around the house that will turn on the lights automatically, and they get, you know, alerts of different problems around the house. So there is an enhancement to a lifestyle. So there is that lifestyle aspect as well, which is seen as a tangible benefit to going down the road of doing something or making your house a little bit smarter. Enhanced security and safety levels. Again, the whole area of security and safety in our homes is the #1 priority, really, and it is something that every person, and you know, a lot of the surveys out there will look at why people are installing smart homes, and certainly the #1 requirement is to improve and enhance security and safety levels. So that is another kind of major kind of benefit of doing that. Save you money. Everybody likes to save some money, so a lot of these smarter devices are able to cut back on energy usage. So it's seen as a large investment initially, but I suppose one of the big selling points, you're going to go back to Nest again, is that Nest showed people out there that you can save money by introducing smartness or intelligence into your environment around the house. So again, this is another driver, but these things have all been building up over the years, and they're starting to kind of come to a kind of a crescendo, I suppose is the word I could maybe use from a musical term. Number 5, increase house value. Again, this has been talked about for a while. Does adding smart IoT devices to your home increase the value? And some of the surveys coming out of the realtors and the auctioneers and the property business are saying that it certainly encourages new buyers to look at a property a little bit closer, and it certainly doesn't devalue a property. And in fact, it has been shown that incorporation of smart device into the fabric of a building is very, very key and seen as a major selling point for some of the more progressive builders and developers. And you're going to hear about a lot of developers partnering with the likes of Apple and of course Google as well, and other companies. Control 4 is another company that's out there that are looking to increase their attractiveness in their properties when they're trying to sell them. Also fun, I've got a picture of a bar, an Irish bar actually in the back there. Yeah, it does. I found it when people come in, friends or neighbours or whatever, it has done a little bit of a wow factor, shall we say, here certainly in Ireland. Maybe not as much in the States because it's probably a bit more developed, but certainly it does. When you can open an app, or if you can issue a voice command to an Amazon Echo or etc., it does have that kind of good feeling. And also done correctly, if you've got multi-room music systems and you've got this combination effect of different connected devices doing different things, then it is a little bit of fun, for example, that we can turn on our Sonos, etc. So there is that enjoyment factor as well, if it's done right and done properly configured and properly set up. Of course, if these systems are not put in place incorrectly, if they're installed incorrectly or configured incorrectly, then they're a bit of a nightmare. So it's important that the installation and the configuration of these things are done in a kind of a family-centric type of environment, if at all possible. And it applies to all home sizes. So a lot of these devices are suitable, so you can get smart plugs or smart outlets that are suitable for an apartment living type of environment or townhouse environment or larger properties in obviously as well. So I suppose the perception is that smart home has always been relegated, I suppose, to the high-end market and are very wealthy and affluent in society. And again, that has changed with a massive drop in price point of automation being built into the lowest cost of items that are out there. Sensors are quite cheap at the moment. But again, the key really to a lot of this is selecting devices, IoT devices that fit into a wider ecosystem, and I'll probably address that a little bit further maybe as I move along here into the slide deck here. So improved peace of mind. We travel away a little bit if we're going down to West Cork. I'm from Cork originally. We're going on at Christmas time, but it's nice to be able to flip open your app and look into the house, for instance. So we've got Nest cams, we've got some other Samsung cameras as well, actually, internally and externally. It's a peace of mind. If you feel that you've left on, we'll say the iron, for instance, or whatever, you can check that. You can see what's going on. So it does help in a big way, improving peace of mind. If your children are coming home from school, etc. So that is worth a lot in itself. And to be quite honest, there's no reason why it couldn't be put out there. But a lot of the stumbling blocks, I suppose, really of mass rollout of these systems is lack of cohesive kind of product ranges, etc., that are there and ready to go, and they have been problematic. And the smart home has been, I suppose, had lots of experience of problems throughout the years. But I'm a firm believer that we're moving along nicely. And also, I suppose, with IoT, you're seeing an integration, I suppose, of the home with other parts of our lives, and that's the beauty of IoT. So this is just one component, which is where we spend our nights and we spend some days. But when we move outside, then IoT is going to expand into our lifestyle even further outside our home as well. I suppose the question, maybe in the question here, have any people here on the call bought any smart devices, or have people looked at some of these popular brands? Maybe all people could look at that, or maybe decide some feedback on whether there was any devices bought here amongst the audience. I'll leave you.
Well, I'm not really part of the audience, but I have bought the Amazon Echo. And
okay.
It's a fantastic device. I've also bought the Nest, and the Nest not for thermostat, but for security. So I've put three of these items, and they're unbelievable insofar as their responsiveness, the ability to track. In this case, I purchased a 10-day subscription plan to the Nest, and so I get 10 days worth of real-time. Real-time video. I've never had an issue with security, but I just have it now. And even I have a windmill, not a windmill, sorry, that's the wrong word. I have a mobile in my living room, and in fact, the mobile moves and actually sends off a message that there's been motion in my house. So it's one of the most fantastic things. And last thing I'll say about the Amazon Echo is, I still think that they've got a ways to go in terms of their search technology, because probably they're way behind in terms of Google. But in terms of link, I would say in the morning, first of all, the sound is great. Secondly, I say, what time is it? Alexa, what time is it? So it tells me what time is it. Alexa, what is the weather in Ireland? Alexa, who's the Prime Minister of France? So that is phenomenal. And then I just say, Alexa, play Electric Light Orchestra, and the answer is shuffling music from Electric Light Orchestra. So I find it fantastic. I think the search technology is not as good as Google's probably, but I've been extremely impressed by it.
Yeah, while you're on the subject, Paul, I'll probably talk a little bit about more as well. Yes, certainly the Echo has a little bit of an advantage on Google Home because they've developed skills, etc., for the smart home, and they've embraced the smart home. Probably Echo is probably out there maybe 18 months, and within 3 to 4 months of Echo release, Amazon decided to really push out the boat on the smart home, and they provided direct integration with a lot of smart home devices and IoT devices. So they're certainly ahead at the moment, but as I say, Google is looking into this in a very, very serious way, and so is Apple. So okay, so let's look at a little bit of IoT use cases. Let's see what we've got here. Enhancing security levels, I suppose I addressed this a little bit, but it is something that really does, you've got the visual enhancement, which is IP cameras. And again, these IP cameras have come a long road from the traditional analog cameras, and they're really the quality, etc., has just improved in leaps and bounds since the analog camera, which is starting to peter out, shall we say. But it's a simple and elegant way to enhance your security. Of course, you've got all-in-one devices as well, and you've got various ways to, I suppose, expand your security in a more connected way, shall we say. So not only are you kind of restricted to the typical AT&T type monitor type of service, you can also do self-monitoring, so you don't you have the ability to not pay monthly fees, which is nice. So security is a big one. As I say here, safety and security is the primary smart home adoption drive for US. So I suppose I alluded to that earlier. There will be 37 million safety and security systems worldwide. So again, I suppose I'm just enhancing that. So to do that, you need to, traditionally a security system is obviously some kind of a keypad at the door, some sensors, etc. When you move to a smarter security system, you're looking at some type of hub, and the options out there are the Samsung SmartThings, we've got the Wink, we've got a number of traditional Z-Wave kind of controllers out there. We have the larger systems such as Control 4, etc. But to enhance your security and to replicate, I suppose, a traditional alarm system, that is now becoming much more feasible to do that. Some people may not be overly comfortable doing that. They believe that the traditional system is still a bit more bulletproof because I suppose the smart home product ranges are still developing. Obviously, Wink is another one there as well. But some people, if they have an element of DIY capability, they are taking that leap. They're moving away from traditional alarm systems, and they are using these hubs as a central point that they can do their own customized security systems, I suppose. So part of building that customized security system is obviously the hub, number one, but number two is to install some window and door contacts. And the communication generally between these can be traditional protocols such as Z-Wave and Zigbee, but also there are other protocols out there, there's Wi-Fi, etc., that is being used. So again, this is, at the moment, it's kind of dabbled on in the DIY market. Also, I suppose the cable companies are pushing their solutions as well based on these kind of technologies. But it's certainly starting to take some shape. Again, you would have motion sensors, and again, they wouldn't be using traditional RF, which is kind of a dedicated bandwidth or dedicated frequency range for the sensors communicating back to your alarm panel. So these are also devices and sensors that can be used, and a siren. So again, my point is here that you have all the traditional components, but you can put these together in whatever way you want and link it to the Internet of Things. And of course, the camera, which we talked about here as well. So that's a little picture of my kettle there. Okay, and then set it up on the app. So that's how you would increase your security. So again, let me recap. Really, you've got traditional security, replicating traditional security alarm with the sensors or a window, some motion sensors. So these are all the smarter elements that you can install and put in place. Now, the next area I want to look at, and I think it's a very important one, it's often overlooked to be quite honest, which is how does IoT make my house safer against, number one, fire, number two, carbon monoxide, and number three, leaks. And these are three big ones, and these things can wipe out a house and a family very, very quickly. So how can you use IoT to make my house any safer? First of all, smart detectors. The traditional detectors are relatively lower cost, but the benefits of smart detectors, and I suppose again the most high profile one here comes out of Nest actually, and I'm not kind of pushing Nest in any sense, but there are other smart detectors as well. Honeywell have their own range of smart detectors, and there are other manufacturers that do it as well, but I'm just using this as an example. So to increase your safety levels, your typical dumb smart detector won't send you a notification, won't alert you all from an audible message. And so there are lots of extra features, I suppose, that you do have in your smart detector. And in fact, I have a number of investment properties, and I have put these smart detectors in all of them. And I get notifications of anything going on within those those houses, and typically it goes off at dinner time is what I'm seeing from a lot of my shooting houses. So very, very useful practical benefits of using that type of, but again, they're connected with the Internet of Things. They're connected out onto the Internet, but general issues can be, somebody changes the Wi-Fi password, for instance. That is a problem. I just literally happened here last night. We got a new router from the cable provider here, and the Wi-Fi signal was changed, obviously a new Wi-Fi network, so I had to go around and change the settings. So that is a little bit of an issue for people that are not tech savvy, and kind of hit me there, to be quite honest, last night, is the migration from one Wi-Fi network to another. And I suppose the other elephant in the room with potential issues with IoT is security, obviously, and that's something that I might address a little bit further as well. But the whole security side of things, particularly cameras, for instance, there was an attack there recently, a denial of service attack, that they used a lot of cameras that were out on the web and even sensors to use kind of DDoS attacks, etc. So these are just things we need to be aware of. But I suppose my point is, it is always a benefit to be comfortable with, changing IP address and changing Wi-Fi networks, which a lot of households do have, a lot of households don't have as well. So it kind of hit me a little bit about that and generally maintaining it. Leak detectors, again, a big one, and particularly useful for people that are aging and independent living, etc. Water damage can just cause absolute chaos and disaster. So again, a simple water leak detector installed in your home is certainly, a huge benefit, etc. So it is it's absolutely key, really, and another part of the smart home to be able to do that. And I suppose the third use case is, how do I cut monthly energy bills? And that is one of the actually early drivers of smart home. I remember maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, everybody was pushing this whole cutting of energy bills and green energy, etc. So it was one of the early kind of drivers. At one particular phase, smart home was seen as this was the kind of the channel into smart home. And to a certain extent, it has been realized, because the smart thermostat is taking the lead there. So to a certain extent, that is happening. So to do that, there are smart outlets out there. Again, the key here is to find a smart outlet that will fit into an overall ecosystem that you want to build. And again, it comes back to this platform thing. A lot of people have bought, I don't know how many smart outlets I've purchased over the past 10 years, and they're defunct really, because they're not compatible with various bits and pieces that I've purchased. So they're in the smart outlet graveyard, really, So it's more and more important that that you're getting something that cohesively works with other devices. Otherwise, you're going to have a whole bunch of standalone systems, etc. So that is very, very important. So we're at mid-range, I suppose, in the evolution of these systems. A smart thermostat, of course, has been proven to save some money, and I think that's well proven. And Paul, you've got one at home, or a couple of them at home, so you can see that there are savings there. But it is something that is certainly kind of one of the drivers within the environment. Now, I want to talk about how to do this and how to the platform and the selection of the platform. I can't kind of stress this enough, to choosing the correct approach. And to be honest, I suppose I've been in a position that I'm hedging my bets really for a long time, but really now I'm kind of coming firm with, there's two platforms really for the Internet of Things within the home. One is obviously Google Nest, which I talked about. The other one is Apple HomeKit. And there are a whole range of other systems that out there that have been installed, and again, compatibility, etc. with those is an issue. But Insteon is another big one actually in the States as well, that is installed in tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of homes, particularly in the States, but we do have Insteon here in this part of the world as well. But looking forward, you have Apple, one of the largest companies in the world, and you have Google, which is a pretty big company as well. You've got these two companies that, and obviously, sorry, should have mentioned SmartThings as well. SmartThings was acquired by Samsung as well, so Samsung is in this space as well. But really, these three companies are I suppose, consumer-facing. So they're able to get some eyeballs, and they're able to generate interest in the space, and that's what they've been doing for the past 2 to 3 years really. They've made a commitment at board level to drive the smart home division in both of these companies. So the HomeKit, I don't know, I'll probably talk a little bit more in the next slide or two about that, but these are the platforms or the ecosystems. Now, none of these ecosystems are fully developed yet. So for example, if you're getting into the Nest world, they do have smart thermostats, they do have smart smoke detectors, they do have smart cameras, but they don't have smart, we say, door and window sensors. And they don't have lots of other devices that you could put into connected homes. There's stuff missing that is not made by them. So the way they circumvent that is they have a whole range of works with Nest products that will work with Nest. So you could go all in on the Nest ecosystem, Nest platform, but so that's what's going on there. With the HomeKit, it's been a very stuttery type of road really for Apple, but it's taken on some new, a big leap really with iOS 10, and I just actually finished a book, to be quite honest, on the subject, so it's fresh in my mind, and I produced a video course on it as well of how we put in some HomeKit here. And it is really taking shape, and I just read a piece there what they expect from Apple next year in 17, and what they're saying is they went down to the various divisions, new iPhones and new iPads, etc., and redesign an Apple Watch, what they're predicting. But the smart home is also expected to surface next year in a much stronger way. So the range of HomeKit products has been pretty low. I think it was released into 14 actually, what do we know, 16. They're expecting over 100 vendors next year to have HomeKit products. The beauty about HomeKit is, number one, it was built from a security perspective. So they've got encryption chips in each of the IoT devices that they provide. They don't provide, but vendors have to comply with, made by MFI program. So that is a big advantage of the HomeKit environment. So I'm pretty upbeat about that now at this stage. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the downsides maybe of it as well. SmartThings has been around and has been a pretty big success as well. Alex Hawkinson, I think, is the founder and CEO there, and he sold the company to Samsung. And we've had and used SmartThings here as well in the O'Driscoll household, and it is something that is to grow and is quite a strong presence within the smart home, but really the big players, big ecosystems seem to be kind of emerging, are the two ones that I mentioned. I'm sure people will have more to say on that, but there are other platforms out there, traditional platforms such as the larger systems, the Control 4s and the Crestron, etc. are out there as well. But really from a millions of homes and households, you're seeing big moves from these big large behemoths of companies, you know. Interacting with your IoT home. So I suppose up to now I've been talking about how to build your smart home, which is basically getting different types of devices. And of course I've been talking about the retrofit primarily. A new home would be done differently in the sense that you would have the luxury of running cable. But even at that now, it's very hard to justify running cable to a certain extent because Wi-Fi has become so prevalent, number one, but also you have the capacity to build professional Wi-Fi networks out there now. So there are companies such as Enroll and Google Wi-Fi, which are due to release kind of mesh Wi-Fi systems, and Luma is another one actually as well, that you have the ability to do these strong, resilient Wi-Fi networks that can be used as a basis to build your smart home. So my point is, if you're building a new home or you're building an extension, it's very hard to justify running cables to do that. But again, cabling is still a very good mechanism of doing a system. But in general, for the bulk of people, really, you're looking at some kind of a wireless type retrofit solution for the bulk of us, really. So interacting with your IoT. So once you've got everything in place, you've got all your smart switches, you've got your smart bulbs, you've got your smart security sensors, you've got you need to be able to interact with this stuff. So number one, you can do it with an app. The problem here is that if you're getting connected devices from different IoT providers, then each one comes with an app. So you get this this app growth type of thing. So if I look at my own iPhone here, I got a little folder and it's like smart home. Then inside there, I've got a whole bunch of apps in there for different things. So that is a little bit of a problem. Now that is being addressed by Apple HomeKit. If you get some Apple HomeKit, then all the devices are running through this home app, which is a big benefit. There's anything HomeKit compliant will run through a single app. So that's very key. But my point here is to interact with your smart home and your IoT devices. Typically, you would use some kind of an app, and ideally, that all those apps would need to be clustered together. So if you're looking down the route of the Control 4s of this world, the Crescent, they have everything under one umbrella, which is a single app, and that's a big advantage. But again, you're spending a lot of money to get to that point. But if you're tying into these larger ecosystems, then you really want to be kind of position yourself so that you can do everything within the one app. I know that's a challenge, etc. Because if you want to turn on your Sonos system, for example, that requires a Sonos app, etc. So there are some issues with app control. If you want to turn on the light, you're not obviously going to flick open your app to turn on the light, etc. But if you're away and you need to turn on lights for security reasons, then you can do that remotely. So that is one mechanism that you can control and interact with your home, with your smart home. And again, this is what I'm talking about here. Actually, it's my multiple apps screen grab. So that's an example there, and all the different little gadgets that we have running here in the O'Driscoll household. Number two, when I first thought we looked at some of the this part here, but really voice has been the ultimate dream, I suppose, for smart home enthusiasts, how to interact with all of these devices around the home. And of course, they don't have to be all of these devices. People can just install a limited number of these devices, etc. But people are installing more and more. It's happening on a piecemeal. So being able to control them is very important. So again, the Echo, which is out there and has been an absolute huge success for Amazon. It took the world by storm, and it is just knocked everything out of the park. So really, it's been one of the top smart home products out there. Google have just released it. I think it's like $99 or something, so it's quite cheap. Amazon do have the advantage in that they have a search engine behind it, and the world's biggest search engine. Siri is out there, and we use HomeKit here. And the downside is you kind of, you pick up your phone, you press the button, hey Siri, whatever. Some of the podcasts out there predicted that a Siri in a can will occur at some stage. And there is talks about Apple producing some kind of competitor device to the Echo and the Google Home. And to be quite honest, if I was talking to Tim Cook, he's got a big plant here in Cork, down in this part of the world, but I would be saying to him, yeah, that it is the missing piece really for HomeKit. It is the missing piece, the ability to sit back on your couch and to issue a command to a tubular speaker, a connected speaker. So that is something that is missing from the portfolio that HomeKit has put forward, but I'm sure that is going to happen. I would assume, I could only assume that they're kind of all in really. Apple are all in on this at the moment. Google is all in on this. They've restructured their company, etc. So they're all in on it, and obviously Amazon is pushing ahead with their initiatives, etc. as well. And the third way to interact with your IoT home is to use automation. To a certain extent, you're not interacting with the home, you're living in your home. And it's the ultimate, to a certain extent, is that you're going around your house, your family going around the house in their daily life, and things are happening around them, and the house is reacting to how they should be. For instance, if there's heat needed in a particular room, then that happens. If you walk out in the morning, everybody's left the house, then all the lights are turned off. When you go to bed at night, the home senses that you're going to bed, so it turns on your thermostat, whatever type of smart thermostat it is. It may close the blinds, etc. The usual kind of stuff. But it's this concept that's been mentioned by Tony Fadell, which is the thought. And it's not specific to Google, the ability to get a completely automated type environment, and that you can obviously step in, etc. to do it. But again, that is done through these things called scenes. So the basis is again that once all your devices, a certain number of these devices are set up and running, then there is the ability to automate and to make these IoT devices react to you and to your lifestyle. And that's where it's going. And I think, how far away are we from that? I would say in the next 3 to 5 years, I'd be comfortable enough in saying that we would have a mass adoption of automation and smart homes in that time scale, because of the sheer developments that's happening at the moment. It's just gone into overdrive, really. The smart home industry is my point. Story after story coming out of the industry in the past. So here is a scene, which is a fancy name for just using some type of configuration to set up a whole bunch of things to happen at a particular time in time. And again, you can trigger these particular things based on different things happening. So here's a little scene that we have here in Good Morning, here at Driscoll household. So then again, you can trigger scenes using location. So for example, if you're coming up to your door in the evening, we use a lot of darkness over here in the wintertime here in Ireland, and we're coming near to your house, you're going into a geofence area, which is a mapped out little virtual circle around your home, then certain things can happen. Basic stuff like turning on the lights, which is nice to have, maybe putting on the thermostat, small little things like that that just make things, the little entrance into your property a little bit more amicable and a little bit more nicer, should we say, you know. You can also trigger scenes or automated scenes based on time. So for example, you can set up early morning scenes that would, you know, open the house or make the house come alive, shall we say, in the morning and evening time as well. Device to device, and so you can set up these systems. And again, I'm putting back to maybe the home because it's the freshest in my mind at the moment. Of course, you can do this with the other platforms as well. But if you, for example, turn off a light switch that's connected to a smart plug, then that can set off the good night scene, for instance. So device-to-device type triggers, and then sensors. I suppose the whole point, and sensors can set off scenes, but the whole point of this is the question, I suppose, really is this stuff easy enough to do for your general consumer? And that's where I suppose education comes in, and that's where I suppose I've spent a lot of my time doing books and trying to make it into a layman's English, is how we call it over here, on how to make this happen for people. Because the benefits, when it's up and running and working and staying up, which is another challenge I suppose with a lot of these devices, then there is huge benefits to society and to people in general, to people's lifestyles. So again, the question is, what part of the cycle are we? And I think we're kind of moving to the good part of the cycle, shall we say, that this is becoming much more real. And I think people are starting to buy IoT devices that solve a particular problem, you know. That might be the smart thermostat, it might be a smart camera, for instance. They're starting there. But the key bit of advice here that I give today is if you need to buy a smart camera, make sure that you know that it will speak to other devices in a year's time or 2 years' time, that you're getting into an ecosystem. And unfortunately, there are competitive ecosystems out there, and that's just the way the world works. So that's me after talking. I hope you enjoyed listening to a good Cork accent, Irish accent there, but we've covered a lot. And you know, I suppose I do a lot of stuff in the training area and obviously authoring books, etc. on the subject. And it's a bit of a passion of mine, as you can probably tell from my conversation anyway. So if there's any questions that might be out there, I certainly welcome any questions that you might have on how IoT is running at the moment.
Gerard, I have a question. It's Paul again. I'm curious and very fascinated by this whole field about, to what extent do you believe, and is there evidence for it, that you can take devices that are fairly inexpensive and easy to make, as opposed to, let's say, a refrigerator or dishwasher? I mean, Samsung obviously has a smart refrigerator coming out. And those are pretty expensive things to make. But I'm talking about, to what extent can entrepreneurial companies and ventures create devices that make the home smarter? And I'm going to use a specific example because I have a personal interest in this now. Is, you know, a friend of mine, my girlfriend actually, has elderly parents. Now they're now searching for these various, you know, home alert and home medical alert and other devices, which frankly have absurdly high costs, such as, you know, $75, $100 per month, a 3-year lock-in. When in fact, I'm always wondering as to why in heck you actually need one of those devices when you have a mobile phone. Now, without going through the details of what the benefits and, you know, the costs and the good and the bad of, well, can you get someone elderly to use a smartphone? I'm not worried about that at this moment. All I'm trying to say is, do you see the evolution of the Internet of Things, in particular as it relates to the home, using the phone in some way, or attachments to the phone to make the home a smarter place? In other words, like the, you know, square that allows people to swipe their credit cards. Do you think that's a way, instead of having to be a big hardware manufacturer, are there other ways that the Internet of Things can impact the home on that level?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, I suppose. First of all, the installation of a hub, because that brings smartness. So you either have the hub locally in the house, or you have the intelligence up on the cloud. So the way Apple is looking at this, and I suppose to a certain extent Nest are looking at this, is that they don't believe that a dedicated hub should be installed in the home and they're looking at putting a lot of that intelligence up onto the internet. So there, for example, Apple is using the iPhone or the iPad as its hub, and in addition to the Apple TV, which is often installed. But going back to the aging population, I think that's quite an interest for me as well. I've done a book on it. There are companies out there that create these little tiny sensors that do kind of, provide connectivity back onto the internet and provide monitoring services. So you can, apply different algorithms and different patterns to the way people are living, shall we say, on a daily way. And again, I suppose they again are standalone proprietary systems for the mainstream. So what you'll see is those type of systems coming on board. I believe some of the larger ecosystems that are out there, such as the Smart Things of this world, works with Smart Things, works with Nest, and works with Apple HomeKit. And you're tying that in then with stuff that people already have. For example, a lot of people will have a smartphone. So if they do have an Apple iPhone, then the logic is to use that for home functionality or home. If they have an Android phone, then maybe the logical thing is that they're going to get more use out of that and then add different types of devices from different manufacturers, but it needs to be compliant with those type of platform, which is the Android platform. So I think that is where it is going. So I think we're early stages, but I think you're going to see a big move to some large standards happening in the next maybe 24 months, I would think, Paul.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just fascinated by the potential, and like many things that we see, the internet has pretty much blown away a lot of businesses in terms of how they get done. And again, my own limited experiences thus far, I did actually purchase a second Amazon Echo that arrives, frankly, tomorrow. But I'm so impressed. Also, I'm impressed. Not to put a plug in for Amazon, but I had a Bose, one of those Bose high-end radios, 3-o'clock radios that people used to buy, and they're expensive, and it was incredibly good. The sound out of the Amazon Echo is equivalent, if not better. And the only thing that it doesn't have is a flashing light that tells me what time it is. But again, all I do is say, Alexa, what time is it? Well, Alexa, what time is it in Dublin? So that to me is we're at the beginning. But I'm really, being a tech guy, or guys in the tech business, there's a joke that goes around. Why did God take 7 days to create the heavens and the universe? Is that he didn't have a installed base of users. Now we have an installed base of users with a phone everywhere. Obviously, the apps can come fast and furious, and the potential for IoT in the home, I think, with a connector to a phone, is almost better than having to wait for the hardware to come around.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. The only thing is the phone moves outside the home, shall we say. So if I've got the phone and I take it out, then there is a little bit of an issue with. So, yeah.
But I'm thinking also while you're in the home. You've raised a great point, but maybe there are other devices that can be low-cost devices that are sensors that are installed that are not, that are even lower cost than the Nest devices and can be produced, in low cost. I happen to, by the way, just not that it matters that much, I happen to like the fact that I used to have an ADT service in the United States, which is one of those big companies that provides in-home security. But every time you came to your home, you had to go run to the keypad to turn off the alarm, the alarm settings. Now I come into the home and the alarm automatically goes off because it knows that I'm home.
Yes. In real time.
Yeah. So the power is pretty overwhelming, and I'm excited about the potential personally.
I think it is, and I think it's part of a bigger picture, really, because IoT is making huge inroads in industrial and transport and cities, and I suppose we've looked at IoT from a home perspective, but in people's lives, I didn't quote the figures, but there's several billion devices yet to come online, all different types of devices, and various levels of intelligence built into them. I
just realized there's one other thing. I just started sorry to interject, but I realize I do have, and as you mentioned, it's kind of funny because you forget what you do have with IoT. I have a home printer that HP makes, and I signed up for the HP service that is $3 a month. maybe it's $9 a month, I've forgotten. But it counts how much ink I have and how many pages I've sent to them. I save 60 or so or 70% on the cost of buying a standard ink cartridge because I have a subscription plan. And yesterday I got a little box in the mail. That's another ink cartridge because it knows that I'm running low on ink. So I mean, that to me is unbelievable. And actually, so my costs went down. Everyone knows that ink cartridges are the way those companies make money. I think they're $25, $35, $40. They're ridiculously expensive. I do think actually I'm paying $9.95 a month. But my $9.95 a month is because I'm printing hundreds of pages of various things that I'm working on, and it's 4 cents a page. So I'm very happy with that as well.
Correct, and a lot of IoT potentially can be built into appliances, to determine technical support and that side of things as well. And Amazon have done this thing called the Dash, which are these little buttons that float around the house as well, and they can replenish products, etc. So that's another little. So Amazon are pushing into the home a little bit as well. I think the Echo was one step into it, shall we say? But it's certainly pushing in that way. Well,
it's extraordinary, and I think that
again, I like
the fact that it both provides big industrial companies opportunities. So if you work for a huge company and it's Samsung or it's a technology firm, and there's obviously applications, and at the same time you can be a small entrepreneur and come up with an idea that might hook into your phone, that might be some sort of sensor, and so I'm quite impressed. But anyway, I think this is a great presentation. Appreciate your time.
That's fine. No problem, Paul. Yeah.